Welcome to Uncomfortable Growth Uncut, where we celebrate those who defy fear, embrace growth, and live without regret. In a world that celebrates perfection, we rarely hear about the challenges, fears, and crossroads that successful leaders grapple with across work and life. Uncomfortable Growth Uncut shines a light on their personal story and the critical human skills we all need today to turn trials into triumph. So today I'm here with the lovely Joanna Robinson. She's currently the Chief Marketing Officer at the Iconic. You can see behind her the visual if you're watching the video. But more than that, she's a real advocate for female empowerment and really supporting women at all stages through their careers and life. And more importantly, we actually were entry-level graduates years ago, decades ago, in fact, at Procter & Gamble. So we have some fun memories also in our shared memory bank. So welcome, Joanna.
Do. Thank you, Rowena. It's such a pleasure to be here. I have followed a few of your podcasts over the last few months and I love them.
Well, now we get to hear about your uncomfortable growth experience. So what's the uncomfortable growth story you'd like to share with us today?
God, I think you and I were spitballing before this episode and I was saying there's just so many. And what I love about the uncomfortable growth periods in your life is exactly that, how much you grow from them. And I think that definitely I've had some kind of personally and professionally. I think this role has, I've been at the Iconic for 20 months. And when I joined, I was actually an interim. So I was kind of signed on for 11 months. I was replacing Dean, who I know is a really good friend of yours. There was quite a lot of movement at the senior level. And I think they just kind of said, let's get someone in to kind of, keep the seat warm and we'll decide what we're doing once we've got a new CEO. So, and it was interesting coming in with an interim mindset because it was like, right, well, and I'm a bit of a change agent. So it was like, okay, well, I'm not there for a long time. It's kind of like, let's get in, see what the issues are, if there's some things that I can change and change quickly, because you actually have license to change things more quickly when you've got that headset on of I'm here for a short time, so I've got to get in and get going. So one of the first things when I talk about kind of uncomfortable, one of the first things that I had to do was to do a full reorg of the customer team. And that involved having to make quite a substantial number of people redundant. And that was within the first 2 months of me being in this role. And so the day that we had to do it, I was introducing myself to some people that I was also then letting go.
Oh, and that would have been so difficult emotionally as well.
Really difficult emotionally because I am such an advocate for people as humans. I really focus on trying to be the best leader that I can be. It's not about managing people, it's about leading people, and to lead effectively, you have to holistically manage who they are, not just the role that they have within your team, but that, the fact that they're wives or husbands and they have kids and livelihoods and that they're human beings, aging parents, which is very prevalent for us at the moment. So it's kind of all of that. And I remember when we did it, we had a bit of an all hands, a town hall where we kind of announced that we were going to be going through the consultations throughout the day and that we were going to consult with everybody. Some were moving on, some were staying, and that, throughout the day they would get an email to come and chat with myself and PNC. And I remember, and I had a script to read, written by PNC. And I remember looking at this room of people that were all looking up at me, and I read the script and it got to the end and I kind of looked and made eye contact with everybody. And I kind of said, I just basically had this moment where my voice broke, and I kind of pulled it back together. But I just remember looking at all these faces and they didn't yet know whether they were staying or leaving. And it was an incredibly emotional moment because even though I hadn't been there that long, I just felt the weight of the fact that I had to do something that was commercially absolutely the right thing to do, but was going to have an impact on these people and
Yeah.
and
Can I
their
just ask a couple of context questions? Because I think it's so difficult to, well, for everyone, it's difficult with restructures, and goodness knows there's so many out there in the market. So, you know, and it's a constant part of corporate life now. But when you came in, you wouldn't have necessarily had experience or tenure with the people, so you wouldn't necessarily know or have your own opinion on you know, are they, you know, performing, or you know, what about them as individuals, you know? So how did you navigate that as someone new having to make all these really difficult decisions on people's lives?
It's a really interesting question, because I have had to make people redundant previously, but I had that overlay of having worked with them, and you know, there were many more layers that come into consideration. It's never easy. It is never easy. So it was not made any easier that I didn't necessarily know them as well as I would have if I'd worked there for a number of years. I think, though, throughout the process, to be able to totally look at it in terms of the roles and not the people. So it was easier in some ways to separate the two, because I didn't know these people on a really deep level yet as, you know, the humans within my team. I was able to assess it in terms of what is the structure and what are the roles that fit within the structure. And now I'm going to map out, you know, the people within the roles, but I didn't have the overlay of whether they were performing or not performing, or whether they're beautiful to work with or more tricky to work with. And so I would never call the process easy at all, but I think being able to look at it completely with the lens of what is the right structure and the right roles that fit within the structure, probably made what was a really difficult process slightly easier. You know.
And I think, you know, anyone who has had to make other people redundant because of business changing direction, or we need to redesign the skill sets because you know, the technology or the world has evolved, we sometimes forget how difficult it is for the leader or the manager. Because the relationship has both people, and of course the person who's being made redundant has so much to emotionally take in, but also then to practically think about, right? So, you know, when do I finish up? How do I find another job? What, you know, what are my choices, etc. But there's also a massive toll on managers, and you know, I like your acknowledgement of that, because while it makes sense rationally, and it's, you know, these decisions need to be made, there's also a really big toll emotionally, and even with the people who are still there, you know,
100%.
the survivor syndrome. So how did that unfold, you know, kind of in these early days of you being the interim CMO as well?
There was a lot going on, and I think it's really interesting because you're absolutely right. I think the people that are left, I mean, a lot of these people had worked together for a very long time. They'd gone through COVID together, which we know really kind of galvanized people, and people got a lot closer throughout that period of time. So they were seeing their friends be let go. And I think that they definitely had some survivor's guilt, like, why am I here and that person's not here? So it was a really tricky time, I guess, to navigate. And I think it's very important to focus on the people that are left, and to try and, you know, kind of rebuild the culture whilst they're carrying their own, the weight of, I mean, you've got the operational fact that people have moved on, the business still had to keep going, and therefore some people end up with 2 or 3 roles suddenly on their shoulders as well. So you're trying to navigate that and carve out what do they focus on, what do they not focus on. They're not just going to take up 2 other people's jobs. So how do you kind of
there's not enough hours technically in
No,
the day.
exactly. And nor should they. You can't
Yeah.
expect people to suddenly take up two people's jobs just because two people have been made redundant. So there's all of that kind of operations and prioritizing that's going on in the background. But then there is the emotional toll. There is the how do you kind of make sure that you are building a North Star for the future, that you're really kind of setting the foundation and the vision for the future. How do you get people to pick up and keep going the next day? Because we're in retail and every day it's a roller coaster. I mean, when we hire people at the Iconic, but I've been in retail for quite a long time now, and I think it attracts a certain profile of person. So when we interview, I say, if you are not up for the highs and the lows, because one day we are high-fiving and the next day we're having an emergency crisis meeting because the sales are down. So it is a certain type of person. Like, I honestly believe if you're not up for that, it will break you.
Yes.
And I have seen it break people. So I'm really transparent. I say to my leaders, be really transparent when you're interviewing people. Like, not everyone is wired for this. So let's not get them in if it's not the right fit.
Yeah, because it just won't be good for them or the outcome.
Anybody. It's not good for anybody. So I'm brutally honest in interviews. I go, if you're up for this, it is like, it's full on, but it's fun. But it's not for everybody. So with that in mind, I think it's kind of you're trying to manage everyone's emotions and the fallout but you're also trying to manage okay, everyone, and now we carry on. Now we've got to get up the next day and we've got to still drive towards that revenue target, and we've still got to make campaigns happen, and we've still got to do the planning and the strategizing, and life has to move on as well. So it's tricky. I mean, I have grown so much in this job over the last 2 years. I really have. Like, that was baptism by fire. I am so blessed to work with the people that I work with, and I have this amazing team. I have an amazing group of execs. My boss, I have a lot of respect for. I'm learning so much under him. He's tough but fair. But I feel like I'm really growing, as a leader, and he challenges me in ways that I think are the best ways to be challenged. So I feel like, and it's interesting because I'm in my 50s, and yet I feel like I'm exponentially growing in this era of my life because of where I am, being at the Iconic, but also where I am in life and this life stage. It's so exciting.
Well, I read something really interesting the other day because, as we were both graduates, we're pretty much the same age.
Yes, exactly. Lifetime ago.
Yeah, exactly. And well, it was really interesting because it looked at what is the age where you have maximum wisdom, and wisdom coming from both energy and experience and insight. And they actually showed that 50s was the peak decade, like 50 to 65 was the peak time, because you've still got energy. But you've also got a lot of experience, but also hopefully more self-awareness and self-insight.
100%.
So we're in our prime.
We're in our prime, 100%. No, I love that. And look, I mean, as we're so blessed to be surrounded by these amazing women. Like, I've been introduced to so many amazing kind of in the CMO network of these women leaders. And there's something really humbling as well about getting to a certain level where you realize that, whilst we're all so privileged to do what we do, it is just our job. And that we have all these other amazing things in our life. Like, we strive so hard to kind of get to this level. And then you realize it's such a privilege because we get to, do what we do. And I talk about this a lot on panels and some of the speaking stuff I do, whereas I think women sometimes can be each other's worst enemies on the way up. I really do. I think, it's not necessarily been the men that I have struggled with. It's been some of the other women trying to take you out, because I think there's this whole thing about there's not enough room for all of us in the boardroom. And I think what is nice about getting to your 50s and getting to a certain level is suddenly all of that's gone. And I'm so humbled by the women that are at a similar level to me. And we're all such great advocates of one another. And I think, God, why can't we be like that on the way here? Because
maybe those younger generations will.
Maybe they will, because I honestly sometimes think it's like going through the Hunger Games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the other thing that's really interesting too, is, with all these restructures, and we know they're going to continue, right? Because with
Yeah.
all of the change that's coming through technology, the business models are going to shift even faster. I mean,
Yes.
who knows what the iconic business model could look like in 3 years, let alone 5 years, right?
100%. Yeah.
So they're going to keep shifting really fast, which means there probably will be restructures or new models for talent to engage.
Yeah.
Which also means too that there won't be just this, kind of this longer term job or security. I mean, that's not real. And yet we still want to build cultures and we still want to develop people. But the reality is a lot of people will be there by choice or because of restructure, probably for 18 months or 2 years, or
Yeah.
long tenure in 5 years' time might actually be 3 years.
Yeah.
So
True.
I think it's really interesting. There's a two-way impact with the speed of business reinvention and the fluidity of talent, but also how do you build great teams when it's not based on, those longer term memories and all of those face-to-face experiences, like when we were younger. How do you build that high-performing team, which may only be a team for 8 months?
Yeah.
And then and more people move around. So the chessboard is
100%.
going to keep moving.
Yeah. Well, I think that's even more the case when you have a relatively young demographic that work for you as well. So the iconic, the average age is kind of 25 to 35, because that's it. We're in the fashion industry. We're a tech and fashion business. So we attract that demographic. And they're really smart. Like, I mean, one of the things I love about being an older person in a tech organization is I'm on an exponential learning curve and I learn so much from these young people. So, but I feel like you've got to have this great hybrid model of people like us that have been around the traps for nearly 3 decades and got a lot of experience, and were around when the internet was just kind of bursting onto the scene. And now I work for a tech company where I've got all these amazing young people and really smart people. So there's this nice kind of hybrid, kind of company that I work for, and we all learn from one another. But I think it is about being really, so at the Iconic, we say we are a tech and fashion company. So our culture is about agility, problem solving, collaboration. We're really trying to lean into test and fail, fail fast and learn from it and move on. So there's this real culture of empowerment. I think there's this real culture of solving business issues together. Getting in the trenches together. Like, one of the great things that we've really driven at the Iconic, and I'm a real brand builder by heart. I come from FMCG. We're all about brand and the insights that drive that. So we've been really busy working on this kind of relaunch of what we call the master brand, which is the Got You Looking campaign. But what I've loved about it, and we're actually gearing up for our second year for next year, for 2025. But what's been interesting about the master brand experience has been how much it's galvanized on the inside across the whole business. So I always say brand is not owned by marketing, it's owned by the whole company. We are all responsible for brand, and it is the most valuable asset that we have. And the Iconic is such this amazing brand that when I came on, one of the things I realized is it already has all this magic and emotional attachment to it. It's just we need to unpack that and then sprinkle it far wider. We've just forgotten to remind people about the Iconic. So we went on this journey to bring this to life, and we've had this amazing campaign that we work with Dentsu Creative. But what has been the magic for me is, yes, it's been amazing to watch it land in the market and the customers embrace it, but even more so to watch internally, whether it's the tech people or the data people or the ops people, our fulfillment center, everyone has leaned into this, and they're so proud of Got You Looking. And we have a channel called Got You Looking in the Wild, where we get people's partners taking photos of bus shelters and buses where they're sharing it, and they're sharing it on the In the Wild channel. And I get an absolute buzz out of that, because I think, God, this has really galvanized our whole business around something that's more meaningful than just,
Yeah.
selling product.
Yeah.
It's that kind of holy grail. So I think, to your
Yeah.
earlier point, that's how you build culture, is you find some stuff that's really going to connect and unite everyone in the business. And it's really some of the simple things, again, on
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
tech stuff that we're doing, I get super pumped about. And every
Yeah,
time
to
I'm on
be
stage,
proud and excited about
yeah,
the way you're serving your customers. And like, I mean, that's why they talk about customer experience and employee experience. When you get that really clear, it's
exactly.
so energizing, and it builds excitement and motivation and releases discretionary effort, but also engagement internally. And
Yeah.
then the customers are served better because people are excited to come to work and fix
That's
problems.
right.
And
Exactly. It's all of that. And I feel
mm,
like, we've worked really hard at the Iconic to build that. And it means that when someone's coming in, hopefully they're feeling that
mm,
energy and they're feeling the empowerment to kind of, work
mm,
on solving issues. They're feeling empowered to be able to call out, the realities of some of the stuff that's not working, not
mm,
feel like they're going to get their head chopped off. I think that we have done a great job. It's been a real work in progress and we still have a
mm,
long way to go. But I
mm.
think as a leadership team, we're very focused and aligned on the culture that we're trying to build, which makes it, I think, easier if someone comes in to go, yeah,
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm aware of it and I'm going to lean into it and
I
I want to be a
understand what
part
you're
of it.
about. And whether I'm here
Exactly.
for 2 years or 2 months, it doesn't really matter, right?
Exactly.
Because I get
Exactly.
it.
I want a piece of it, for a
Yeah,
short time
yeah,
or a long time.
yeah. So of course I'm going to ask you the question, which I'm sure you get asked all the time. Do you have like the best wardrobe ever? Because I would be online. I'm like, I'm working, darling. I'm just
Totally. Actually, it is very funny because before I worked for the Iconic, I have always been a tier one Iconic lover. And, my husband used to go, if I see one more bloody Iconic parcel. So I was already in love with the brand. So now I get to love it from the inside. And yes, I do. I get a good staff discount and I do have an amazing wardrobe. And I actually, in Bondi, I'm known for, we do clothes swaps where literally we
yeah,
all swap, we have some
yeah,
wines and it's really fun. They
yeah.
will literally move the date until I can come because they know that I bring a massive
He
big
brings a
bag.
lot.
I bring a lot. So yes, I am very lucky. I do have a good wardrobe.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I've been doing some work for Church and Dwight, and they have the hero pimple patches. And my
Oh
kids
yeah.
are like, I love them. And the dry shampoo, the batik are like, I love them. And then they're like, Mum, do you reckon you could do some work
They're picking where they want you
somewhere
to go and do
even
work.
better?
I love that.
It's hilarious. So obviously, the last couple of years being in this new job has been a big growth curve.
Mm,
What would you say are other sources of personal growth for you? Because everyone
mm,
is really different, and I love to get into what drives different people. Like, where do they
yeah.
find their different sources of growth?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think I have some amazing people in my life that help me grow. I have a husband who actually is a kind of, he's an exec coach that really focuses a lot on kind of what is happiness about. And,
Mm-hmm.
very sadly, he has had 4 people within his friendship group, males, who have committed suicide, including my brother-in-law, his brother, 2 years ago. So he was 52, 2 young kids. So we are, but he is very purpose driven around, mental health in general, but particularly male mental health. And we're raising a daughter and a son, and he's 14. And, we're very conscious that we need to get men particularly talking about their emotions and their feelings and not trying to kind of, measure up to this idealistic idea of what success is. My husband is very driven by that. And I think that we're very, again, in our 50s, we're very purpose driven.
Mm-hmm.
So I love working for the Iconic, but I love that it gives me the platform to be able to do the real piece of work, which is to nurture and develop the next generation of young leaders, particularly young female leaders. He's driven by this whole area around male mental health. So he is my cheerleader and I am his. So I feel I'm very lucky to have, and I know you and David have the same thing. We've been together a long time and we have grown a lot. I'm very open about the fact that we have a marriage counselor We saw her, God, 3-4 years ago when we were in some trouble. You cannot be with someone for 24 years and not go through some shit. And we went and got some help, and she's still in our life today. And we see her every month without fail. She's a personal trainer for our marriage. So, you know, that helps me grow. She helps us grow as a couple, but also as individuals. And I have an amazing exec coach who I see every 2 weeks, who is very about legacy. So it's not just about my career. It's about what is the legacy that I want to leave, and who am I being in the moment, and how do I really, you know, really kind of lean into who I am as a person and the human that I want to be. And, you know, so I'm really lucky. I have amazing friends. I have my dad that lives down the road, who has been my mentor forever. You know, and he's someone I really bounce things off. So one of my pieces of advice in terms of how we grow is to have people in your life that will challenge you in a really good way on that growth journey, you know. So to take the opportunity to, if you don't have mentors, to really make sure that you have people in your life that will push you into uncomfortable areas, you know.
And I love what you were just saying, and thank you for your openness, because I think it's just a fact that there's always, when there's an up, there's a down, right? There's good, there's evil, there's black, there's white, there's a full spectrum. And you know, part of uncomfortable growth for me is, how do you recognize that everyone has a small self? And we're more wired for that, you know, that negative side of ourselves. But with work, we can figure out how to move over to our best self. But you really have to overcome your wiring. And I think as a society, we hide it so much, right? So normally in the marketing arena, the business arena, there's always, you know, keynotes on the stage, and it's always about the great stuff, the business, the success, and that's great. But there's the other side.
Yes.
And I feel that we do such a disservice to the younger generations.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't get airtime. Or if it does, it's in kind of little groups, and it's, you know, subtle and occasional, and only your closest friends.
Yes.
And, you know, if you're going to learn how to grow, more growth comes from struggle. Right. So
100%.
even your experience, you know, coming into the iconic, like, it comes from struggle. That's where it comes from the most. And that's how you build strength, because then you're like, you know, I got through that.
Yeah.
I learnt lots of stuff. I know what I'll do differently next time, or I know what I'll keep with me next time. And I just think, you know, in this world of social media generally shows perfection rather than reality. And there's not a lot of conversations around the reality of, you know, like you said, if you're married for a long time, there's tough times. There are times when you are not on the same page.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you can't find your way back together and choose to stay together.
No.
But it means that there are tough times, and you need to figure out how to come back together. And obviously having professional support and help is a great way to do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's it's not easy. The growth thing, you know, we talk about it all the time at work. Growth sounds really easy, really, really hard.
Really, really hard. And I think it's the other thing is to be really real with yourself, is that it's a journey, not a destination. So, you know, again, one of the things I love about aging is that you just realize there's so much you don't know. There's so much we have to learn. And I think being really self-aware as well. Like, I think it's interesting when you get feedback. I was listening to Simon Sinek talk the other day on Instagram, I think, and he was saying, you know, with feedback, there's some you can just dismiss, and you're like, oh, that's their opinion, but I know that's not true. And the other stuff that kind of is a bit ouchy, you're like, oh, that hurts. And usually it's because there's some semi-truth to it.
Yes.
So the other thing I've learned about being uncomfortable is when something kind of stings a little bit, I think, oh, I need to kind of lean into that, because that's stinging. And so is there some truth there? Am I a bit aggressive when I get frustrated? Is there something there to that? You know, so again, to grow, you have to kind of lean into those uncomfortable moments. And some of that is people giving you feedback. And I think Simon Sinek is right on the money that some of it you just dismiss and go, oh, well, that's, literally your opinion. But the stuff that kind of resonates a little bit, uncomfortably so, I think you need to kind of unpack
that. And that's usually the stuff where it's more than one person, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one 100%. Random. It's like, okay, that's their perspective, and they're entitled to that, and that's good. But when you kind of get
people.
The same, you get that little thread, that consistency. You're like, okay, it's not just one person.
No. And I think I think one of the greatest teachers, and I know you would probably, attest to this as well, as our children. Like, I mean, how many times have I gone, that was not my best mum moment. And I think being able to, and I've lost my shed or whatever, and it might be because there's a lot of pressure and, but I think also teaching the kids to be able to say, I'm sorry, and I should have done that differently. There's some, context doesn't justify it, but I think being able to say to your kids, that was not my best parent moment is really important as well, because I think they learn then that, you've got to take accountability.
Okay. Yeah.
It's okay
to get it wrong. We're all human.
100%. Even their parents are only human.
Yeah.
We're not perfect.
we try our best, but
we try our best.
Sometimes fall short. Yeah, no, I do think it's so important. I think just because when you want to grow, you are open to not being perfect. It's like when we want to be perfect, then you're not going to grow. It's people talk about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. And you look at it on paper and you're like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Why don't we just always have that growth mindset? And that's because it's hard, right? You have to admit that, you didn't get it right, or you need to go back and try again and put more effort in.
Yeah.
You have to continually be open. And that's what's hard about it.
100%.
For most, for most of us.
Yeah. And I recently went to a retreat, which was amazing, actually, in Byron a few weekends ago. And I actually went as a +1 to one of my girlfriends. And I thought it was a yoga retreat, but it was actually a whole lot of middle-aged women, and it was a whole journey to self. And I got there, and I'd just come off the back of a busy day of work, and everyone, the facilitators were amazing, but it was all about slowing down. And we had this amazing speaker on the Saturday night who said, and this really resonated for me, and I've still yet to fully unpack it, but she said, we wear busyness, particularly us women that are kind of, career women and mums and so being busy is part of our identity. But she said, you might just want to kind of unpack whether you're being busy to avoid something. Like what happens if you stop? Like, do you really then have to kind of go deep and unpack all these things that you're too busy to kind of do the work on? And I thought, that's really interesting. Am I too busy being busy because I don't want to do some work on myself?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been too busy to unpack that, but
that's so funny.
But I know it's there.
But I think that's true because, like one of the most powerful questions or important questions, but the hardest to answer is, what do you truly want?
Yeah.
Right. And obviously it's not a quick answer. And it's not, I want, I don't know, pork schnitzel for dinner. It's not that kind of answer, right? So it's a deep answer, but what do I truly want?
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes when it feels too hard, or there are too many things to work through to really get to that, or maybe there are some big changes that we need to make, or big issues to address, which is why then it's like, I don't have time for that. I'll just binge on Netflix, or I'll do some online shopping on the Iconic. Or I'll just basically find a way to distract myself.
Yeah.
And I do think that just having time to have a cup of tea with ourselves is so important. And it's not to think about the 20 other things on the list. No. It's just to think about, where am I at? Yeah. And, do the things I do in my life, do they all feel good and right? Or do they feel like they're things I choose to do?
Yes.
Or are there some changes I need to make? Or
Yeah.
what's that thing that, like you said before, the sting of discomfort? There's a problem or there's something there, but I'm not ready to address it.
Yeah. Yes.
And I do think in this busy world, such a great insight from that retreat you were on. In this busy world, it's so easy to distract ourselves.
Totally.
So easy to not then address it, but then ultimately things fall apart, right? It starts off
Yeah.
as a little sore, a scratch, and then it
Yes.
becomes a wound, and then it becomes, lots of blood, like it starts to hemorrhage. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
just
No.
taking the time out to go,
Yeah.
what do I truly want?
Well, and I think the only
On
way
the
you can do that is to give yourself
way.
space. And I think,
Mm,
that, the space is just taking a moment to slow down
mm,
and thinking about,
mm,
exactly that. What do I truly want?
yeah. It's interesting too in the workplace. I was talking to someone the other day about, AI. Everyone's talking about AI, but I was like, okay, so now we're going to be working with robots. But that doesn't mean that humans are robots. In fact, we know we're not robots.
Totally.
So we need to have a different way of working to the robots. We're not competing with the robots. We're
No, working
complementing
alongside.
them.
100%.
But
Yeah.
that
It's how do
means
we
I
work
think
together?
slowing down because,
Yeah.
in recent years there's been so much extra stuff to do. Like you were talking at the start, like jobs getting amalgamated and restructures, and it doesn't seem to be more resource. It always seems to be less.
Yes.
Um, but that just means people are busy doing lots of executional stuff too, and the 100 emails.
Yes. Yeah.
But that doesn't help deep thinking or hard work like strategy,
No.
or how do we have a better conversation if there's some interpersonal conflict in the workplace, or how
Yeah.
do we actually spend time not just coming up with the quick fix, but the redesign of an experience that is going to make a big difference. So
Yeah.
I do feel too that there's, this busyness is in our personal lives, but I also think it's in the work life. I'm just really hopeful that when we've got all the AI to do all that
Yes.
stuff,
I
we
totally
do
agree.
something different.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's exciting about AI. And I talked about this, a few weeks ago on a panel, which was let's give all the automation stuff and all that admin stuff to AI, because what we want, we're always talking about how do we be on the business, not in the business. Let the AI do the in the business so that we can be more strategic. So we do have space to solve problems, because it's all about trying to get us off the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
AI will help us do that.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I'm excited about it. I think
Yeah, me
you hit the
too.
nail on the head. How do we do it together? How do we work with the robots? I do think it's funny with Chat GPT. I'm like so polite. I'm thank you.
Yeah,
And
me
she's
too.
like, you're welcome. And I'm like, oh, we should go for a wine.
Exactly. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, that's hilarious. So I've got a few quick fire questions.
Yes. Let's
Just
go.
to close us off. Okay, so first one. What are 3 things you've learned about yourself in recent years?
I'm energetic. I'm resilient. And I can always do better.
That's really lovely. Nice balance there. I can definitely attest to you've always been energetic. Here's the laugh between us. Okay, next one. What is important to you at the moment in your life?
Oh God, my friends and family and my job.
Mm,
And I said something on LinkedIn the other day. I love my job. I'm really lucky I get to do what I do. But honestly, I love my friends and family more, because that's what life's about.
I absolutely agree with you. And it's so important that we get that balance right then between, like, we may spend more hours at work,
Yeah.
but it's the quality and
Yes.
it's the nourishment, the soul nourishment we get from what really matters, family and friends and people.
It really does. And I just love, again, the wisdom of age that teaches you that, because, I've lost my mum already. the time. And I got to spend some lovely time with her before she passed, because my parents moved from Perth and she had Alzheimer's, and my dad is in the retirement village on my street. And I just feel so privileged that, you know, it is about the quality family, friend, people time that you spend with the humans that matter in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and last one, but of course there's 3 sections. So
a 3 in 1.
A 3 in 1. Okay, so what is a current fear, a current inspiration, and a current challenge for you at the moment? So we've got fear, inspiration, and challenge.
Oh my God. Current fear. Well, I guess a constant, I'll be really honest. I think a current fear is the balance of, we talk about balance, you know, the balance of career and family. So I think a constant fear as a mum is, am I doing enough as a mum? Like, am I, you know, I've got one at uni now, she's 18, but they need you in a different way. I've got one who's only 14 who kind of struggles with the whole concept of going to school and just needs a lot more nurturing. So there's that constant fear of, am I doing a good enough job as a mum, you know? So
yeah, I can relate to that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think a lot of mums, I think what's so nice is mums saying that to one another, because it gives us permission to feel that way. It doesn't mean it's right, but we all go, oh good, yeah, I feel that way too.
Our intention's always there.
Totally.
Just need to make sure I get the execution right. That's the, you know, did I do it well enough then or not? Did I fall down? But the intention's always there.
Yeah, 100%. What do I find inspiring? I find aging inspiring. Like, I feel aging is a privilege. Like, you know, every extra day that you get on this earth is a gift. And I feel very happy and grateful for where I am in my life and for the people I have in my life. So I'm inspired every day by the life that I get to live.
That's beautiful. I love that. That gave me goosebumps.
Thanks, Ro. What was the last one?
Challenge. The challenge. We end on the challenge.
Oh my God. Well, I think the challenge links really to the first 2, which is about that eternal challenge of trying to balance, you know, and it's, I don't know, I think there's no such thing as the perfect balance. There are days it's totally out of balance, but it's like, if you could step back and say, overall, I'm kind of giving more time to the things that really matter. And do they feel that? So do my friends and family know how much they mean to me? And even if they don't get access to me every day, but do they feel valued by me? You know, so that's kind of the challenge, the eternal challenge.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've loved our conversation so
Me
much.
Too.
Thanks so much for coming on Uncomfortable Growth, Joanna.
Thank you for having me. It's been absolutely awesome. Thank you, Ro.
If you are inspired but thinking, I can't do that, then you are so wrong. Anyone can learn the art of uncomfortable growth with the help of my flagship program, Uncomfortable Growth, Own Your Reinvention. In this, you will learn to navigate your own internal contradictions to finally unlock the courage and commitment to live a deeply meaningful life by design and on your terms. Uncomfortable growth is about the struggle and joy in discovering who you are, what you truly want, and how to make it happen. If this is something you are ready for, then find out more at www.rowenamillward.com. What have you got to lose, or more importantly, gain?